Yes, I've got the same top on that I had on Friday, smelly bastard. Apologies for the delay. I had PC problems, and for once it wasn't my PC. Ava went to go on her PC, and you can see it there. It's behind you. It's one of these big fuck off PCs. Went to use it, dead, completely dead as a doornail. I've tried three power cables with it and nothing. I'm getting absolutely nothing at all. So I'm thinking it's going to be the power PSU. But I spoke to one of my pals and he said it might not be that. He says it's not necessarily that. He said it could be like something to do with the motherboard, whatever. So I've I've gone against what he said to me to do is I had a look at the PSU, put it into Amazon and it was coming in at 270. Was it no? Sorry, 246 pounds. I'm like, fucking hell, when did PSUs become 250 quid? I went on eBay and there's quite a few for sale for about 30, 40 quid. So I put an offer in and it yeah, I got it for 17 quid plus £5 postage. My mate did say it's not a good idea to put second hand PSUs in a computer, but you know what? I thought if it can Steve, I can't check out. I'm completely well. I've actually bought exactly the same one, Colin. Exactly the same one. So hopefully it's going to be a question of just swapping it out. If it doesn't work, I'm going to take it to my mate's. He's got a computer shop, but a complete pain in the arse. But you know, shit happens. That's what happens with electronics. Yeah, I can't. Multimeters. Don't know how to use multimeters. I know I'm probably the only person in the entire world that doesn't know how to use them, but yeah, I'm completely thick when it comes to stuff like that. So anyway, so that's why I was late. I was literally just about to jump in and start the stream when yeah, you and me both, Steve, because Ava's quite literally lost without her computer. So I need probably take a few days for the thing to arrive. But anyway, right tonight, I'm not long back. I was at the Isle of Arran, had a wonderful time. Um, yeah, what does that mean, Ox? Does it mean that when I put a new PSU, it should hopefully work? That's what I'm hoping. Anyway, if it's the motherboard, then yeah, yeah. Tonight I'm just going to be. Yeah, I was at Arran, had a great time, really nice, beautiful. The weather today was just gorgeous. Really, yeah, it's one of these things. If you go across there, you just feel the kind of tension ooze out. It's that relaxing. So tonight I'm just going to. I feel a bit of a fraud because what you could actually do is you could just come out of this video and type in the name of the program we're going to watch, and you can just watch it yourself whenever you want. But where's the fun in that? You know, you've got me in the back making little witty comments. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to watch part two. Well, it wasn't part two; it was an hour. I think it was about an hour and almost 2 hours worth. Oh, hang on 2 seconds. It's flooding me. Fuck. Ah, just give me 2 seconds. Sorry, folks. I gave a Hoover, a loan of Hoover to somebody, and they've just told me, did it come with the power adapter? Did it come with the PSU? And I meant yes. Oh, I think I've chucked it out. I don't know where it is. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Yep. So what we're going to do is we watched about half of it. It's making the most of the micro live. We watched half of it on Friday, and I'm just going to watch. We're going to watch the second half together. Um, when I was messing about with OBS on Friday, for some reason I couldn't get the Mister to display. Don't know what's going on, so I'm going to have to reinstall OBS, which is a complete pain in the arse. But anyway, right, it's late enough, so let us get into this. We have already seen.
Good morning. This is Studio 4 at the television
I think they're about 40 minutes in. We'll go to 40 minutes.
And also, the first one we put out was a picture of a girl. This is supposed to be Cheryl Ladd. Doesn't really look anything like her, but we put that out coded for various micros, and we got these printouts back from people who said, you know, it works, great, congratulations.
Are there any problems with it?
Surprisingly, when we did our first tests on this months and months ago, we found that it loaded first time off medium wave, which, as you probably realise, has got a very, very limited bandwidth and has all sorts of interference and so on at night. We did our test at about 2 in the morning, and even with the foreign stations beaming in on the same frequency, we still had no problems loading.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, the BBC launched a new service on CFAX to provide free computer software. The manager of this service is Lawson Brown. Tell us about it, Lawson.
Telesoftware, as far as the BBC is concerned, is involved with transmitting computer programs and data using the ordinary television signal and CFAX pages. Here we have an ordinary television set, and we can flick through the channels, and the picture's been adjusted so that we can see an area of screen that we don't normally see with our ordinary pictures that we watch. There are 4 lines of dots going across the top of that screen, and that's digital information that's transmitted. An ordinary teletext set would decode that and turn it into the CFAX pages that you can usually call up with a handset. Now, because it's digital, we can equally well feed that output into a microcomputer. And to do that, we need an adapter of some description to take the information and put it into memory. We just unplug the aerial from the television set itself, plug the output from the microcomputer into it, and the aerial lead into the adapter.
Simple.
Select the appropriate channel and tell the computer we're going to use teletext.
So this adapter would actually convert a perfectly ordinary television set, not a teletext set, into a teletext set?
No, it will even convert, it'll convert an ordinary set, and it'll also convert an ordinary monitor. You don't have to have a teletext set at all.
I see.
Now, the simplest...
How much does it cost?
It's just over £200. The simplest way to use the unit is as an ordinary teletext receiver. Very expensive one, of course, and we can call up the ordinary CFAX or any other teletext page that's being transmitted by any other broadcast company.
My goodness, that is nostalgic.
The exciting thing we can do with it, of course, though, is to download software. And to do that, we call up the page number on which I know there's a program. If you don't know which programs are being transmitted, you can look up the index on page 701 of CFAX. And as CFAX cycles, the page will be picked up and that program will be downloaded into the memory of the microcomputer.
It's going through really like a carousel, as you like.
Yes, it is. It's very much like a carousel slide projector, the way CFAX is transmitted.
We must have dropped in at rather a wrong point. It's taking.
Yes, it's coming down now. We can get about 1K of software for technical people that are watching onto a single frame. And because we're limited by CFAX access time, then that downloading time is about 12.5 seconds for each frame. You can get a big program down in 5 minutes.
And what sort of programs are you sending down?
A very wide range of programs. In the initial stages, a lot of the software is going to be educational. We're getting support for the service from Microelectronics program and from Brighton Polytechnic Faculty of Education, who are carrying out an experiment. And we're particularly interested in the sort of software that is not available by other means. One of the advantages of this system is that it does allow access to ordinary CFAX data. So we can actually grab the information that's put onto CFAX pages and process them by simple programs.
It's loaded now. Can we
That's
run
right.
it?
That program's downloaded, and if we just run it, we should see a simple program to demonstrate how we can actually do that. It's all on time delay, so... Let's take in the Financial Times index, Friday's close, from a CFAX page. It's now waiting for today's recipe to appear.
So that's kind of like a menu program that's going into various other pages of CFAX, pulling in the data and assembling it so you can actually see
That's
it.
exactly right, and it is very simple. That's accessed from within an ordinary basic program. No need for machine code or assembly or anything like that.
Clearly, you wouldn't be able to do that sending a program down on the radio. But let's go back to Mr. Sampson's question. Why do you transmit programs on radio as well as sending it out on CFAX?
Because the sort of service we wanted is far more sophisticated than what was possible over the radio system. As was said by the film interview, they are limited to fairly short pieces of software for obvious reasons, the noise and so on. One of the important factors that this adapter gives us as well over radio is error checking. And every page that's downloaded is error checked as it comes down. That means that you never download a program with a bug in it.
So that if it was sent over the radio, you could actually receive it and then run it, and you wouldn't know whether there was a bug in the program or there was a bug in the transmission of the data.
That's right. If you get a bug now, it's a bug in the program. It's not a bug in transmission. That's guaranteed.
It still seems a lot of money. I still can't quite see why people shouldn't take the advantage of having it on an ordinary receiver. Couldn't you do it as well?
Certainly, as far with the radio transmissions, there are transmissions going on with short pieces of software, and that's being done for educational broadcasts and so on. But this service is completely based on the whole approach to the system rather than single small programs.
Is it only for the BBC Micro at the moment?
At the moment it is. The Micro is the only unit that has a teletext adapter available for it. But technically we can transmit software in any language or for any machine.
So you would do that, would you, when other machines had adapters?
This would be up to the manufacturer to come along and talk to us and say that he was providing this service and he could guarantee a reasonable audience and obviously some sort of software support. We would then discuss fairly closely whether we could offer him transmissions for his machine.
I'm a bit worried about free software. I always think that something you get for nothing is worth precisely what you pay for it. Also, it could deter people from actually making an investment to really write first-class software and block it. Who's actually paying for this free software? Is it me as a license holder?
No, it isn't. The software that we're having produced to go with particularly our broadcast series is being commissioned by the television service. Of course, the adapter and so on does provide an income anyway. We're also producing a kind of software that's not normally available, so we don't see ourselves in direct competition with the ordinary software market. We can, of course, provide a software maintenance and data service for the market that's never been available to any other publisher.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Lawson. I think we've been so fortunate so far in that not one micro has broken down and nothing has gone wrong so far, except my attention's been drawn. Our clock stopped, which just shows what happens when you use low technology. Well, it's time for another phone-in. We've got a caller on line one, Anthony Attack. Hello, Anthony.
Hello.
Good morning. What's your question?
Is it possible for a programmer to safeguard his software from pirates? And if so, how?
Well, I'm sure that's right in Ian Trackman's court, because Ian Trackman's written a lot of programs for sale, including all the stuff that came out on the last series on making the most of the micro. Ian, how do you safeguard your programs from being stolen, or is that itself a trade secret?
Well, yes, of course. If I try and answer that over the air, there's going to be all our viewers are going to know exactly how to break that protection. Protection is a very difficult problem because programs are in the computer, and once they're in there, you can get at them. Really, the only complete solution that's been found is some kind of hardware attachment that you have to fit to your computer. The computer recognizes the hardware and then will run the program. There are, of course, lots of little tricks that you can do. If I put down the phone, let me show you a little trick or two that we can do. And I'll write a little program here. Repeat, print, XOX. All I'm making it do is just print something on the screen. And I'll list this out there, and all I'm going to do is just make it print some numbers. Now, it's just printing away there. If I press escape, we can get to the program. Now, actually, what I can do is mess about with the program itself. I'll put a line in at the beginning, on error, go to 40. That means when I now press escape, it's going to go to a new line 40, and I'm going to put a line in 40, which is a real bit of computer jargon, but what I'm doing is actually corrupting the program. So I'll show you the program again, and if we now run it with any luck, if I now press escape and I try and list the program, yes, indeed, it's come back bad program, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody to get that program back again.
Thank you very much, Ian. We have another caller on line 2. Mr. Hudson, good morning.
Good morning. Could you tell me exactly what machine code is and what the average user wants it for?
John, would you like to tackle that?
Oh boy, yes, it's not easy to explain what machine code is, to say the least. Machine code is a technique which enables you to write programs which are fast, much faster than when written in BASIC or another language, and small. So if you want to write a program that must occupy very little memory, machine code's attractive, but it is difficult to write in. You're writing in a language, we'd say, which is much nearer the language that the microprocessor itself understands, and it's not anything like the language that human beings understand. And you've got this choice. You can either write in something that's very easy to write, which is often a bit slow when it's running, or go the other way and try and get near the computer's language. Now, there are routes which will take you down to machine code whilst writing in an easy language, but machine code's the difficult language that the computer itself understands.
I think someone from our audience wanted the lady in the spotted dress.
With regard to the CFAX programs that can be downloaded, what is the position regarding copyright?
Did you hear that, Lawson? What's the position regarding copyright on the CFAX programs?
Copyright on transmitted software is virtually identical to the rules that are applied as far as videotaping programs are concerned. So if you read if you're from a school, I don't know.
No, it's private.
There is a copyright notice sent out, and the restrictions are virtually identical. Basically, you can copy them and record them for your own, and modify them for your own purposes.
We have another caller on line 3, Shirley Phillips. Hello, Shirley. Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is about word processing courses. My company just bought me a word processor, and the courses that are being offered range from anything from £200 a day or £100 a day, and or just the morning for £100. Now, to learn all that there is to know when you haven't been exposed like myself to this sort of thing before seems, my God, how am I going to learn that all in a morning? And are there any evening classes or cheaper ways of learning? Or
you see, I'm not, if I was 16, I could learn most probably at a faster rate, but I'm no longer 16, and my learning capacity is obviously slightly slower than that.
Well, our business consultant is Colin Harris. Colin, have you any comments to make?
Well, word processing is perhaps the most important aspect of using a micro in business terms. Most people use a micro for word processing. They use it for other things as well. In terms of learning, it depends very much on whether the manufacturer of either the hardware or the software runs their own courses. The most popular packages available for the business computers don't have courses run for them by manufacturers of either. There are a number of companies, there are a number of dealers, there are a number of evening polytechnics, etc., that run word processing courses, but they're all in specific subjects. They all are running particular packages on particular machines. And I think the lady needs to be a bit more specific about what package and what machine she wants to use before looking at what courses are available. I'd agree entirely that in half a day, it's very difficult to learn one of the complex packages that are available.
Has anybody else got any experience? Yes.
I'm appalled that the caller's employer hasn't provided some training, and I think it's a question in the use of office automation. I think there's an obligation on the employer to provide sufficient training, and I wonder what the employer's doing. When the question of word processing, there's the immediate thing of operating the piece of equipment, but there's also an understanding of what it can do in the whole of the office. And
appalled.
as well as there's an appalling lack of training often of operators, but of managers, and the many cases where what goes wrong with word processing is managers who don't understand how to provide the documentation and deal with the word processing output.
We are doing a new series on the electronic office, or the office of the future, and that's coming out in February, and there'll be a whole programme there on word processing, which will at least set the scene, so I hope that will help you a little bit. That was almost introducing a plug for a wonderful new series. Thank you, Malcolm. We have another caller on line 4, Neville Tynemouth. Good morning, Neville.
Good morning.
What's your question?
Well, my friends and I have written some simple games for the Vic computer, and we wondered if we should try and sell them commercially, or wait till we are older and more experienced.
For Newcastle.
Ian, you're used to selling software, or Richard, perhaps he might want to sell these into school. He didn't say what sort. What sort of programs are they?
Games.
They're just simple games, really.
Simple games.
I mean, I would say that you want to approach Commodore because they're the sort of people who would market software for themselves, or a small local publisher. But I'd have thought in the first instance a good idea to try it on some local experienced computer operators, like a local computer club near where you live, and get their experience about how good your programming is before you go on a bit further.
You can also attempt to sell them to magazines, of course, but you lose the copyright if you do that, but you might make a little bit. And, of course, these things do get copied. I would try a magazine or your local club. We have another caller on line 1, Robert Cockcroft. Good morning, Robert.
Morning.
Good morning. Can we help you?
Yeah, I'm wondering what can the data statements, the numbers, be used for anything else except music?
David, did you hear that question?
I think he's really asking what else can you do with data statements apart from music. So it's really Ian's call.
I think I can take that one now.
Okay, Ian.
Yes, indeed. We're talking about BASIC here, and there are 2 commands, read and data. Read tells the program to go to the data line and get some data, some information from that line. Now, you can put really anything that you want in there. If you tell it to read a word or read a number, then it will read that word or read that number, and it's entirely up to you in the context of your program what you then want to do with that number or with that word or with the letters. So the answer is yes, you can do anything with data.
Thank you, Ian. Well, there will be another phone-in section later. One will be concentrating on music and graphics. When a beginner's given a job to program, he instinctively wants to get on the machine and start coding immediately. He's so enthusiastic about it, and he really is anxious to write some code. But usually it's best to think the problem through and specify exactly what you want to do. Coding's really almost the last thing you want to do. The last thing, of course, is to test out whether the programs work. So let's have a look at how our programmers have tackled the job. Darlene, I've got to be careful not to call you darling. I know it embarrasses you terribly. Darlene, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. We've got our
darling
ads coming up on the screen fine, and now we're working on adding some graphics and pretty things coming up on the screen in between each ad.
So the idea is to get the sort of display in between to attract the attention.
We started with
school, I don't know.
No, it's private.
If you tell it to read a word or read a number, then it will read that word or read that number, and it's entirely up to you in the context of your program what you then want to do with that number or with that word or with the letters. So the answer is yes, you can do anything with data.
Thank you, Ian. Well, there will be another phone-in section later. One will be concentrating on music and graphics. When a beginner's given a job to program, he instinctively wants to get on the machine and start coding immediately. He's so enthusiastic about it, and he really is anxious to write some code. But usually it's best to think the problem through and specify exactly what you want to do. Coding's really almost the last thing you want to do. The last thing, of course, is to test out whether the programs work. So let's have a look at how our programmers have tackled the job. Darlene, I've got to be careful not to call you darling. I know it embarrasses you terribly. Darlene, how's it going?
Darlene.
It's going pretty good. We've got our ads coming up on the screen fine, and now we're working on adding some graphics and pretty things coming up on the screen in between each ad.
So the idea is to get the sort of display in between to attract the attention, is it?
We started with the basics of the thing, the actual bits that it actually needs to do, and now we're working on doing the other embellishments to basically make it look pretty. We're only on one routine at the moment there to do a 5-pointed star. We're now working on other routines that will sort of catch the eye and sort of try and make people look at it.
But at the present moment to change them, you have to hit the keyboard.
It does actually wait for 15 seconds. If you don't press a key in that time, it'll go on anyway.
Terrific. How are you getting on? Alan's newsagent, Station Parade. Excellent. How have you tackled the problem? Did you define it first, or did you go straight into coding?
Well, it was fairly obvious that we were going to have to put letters up on the messages up on the screen, which didn't really require much thinking about, apart from what sizes you want and so on. So we went straight into coding that, and now we're thinking about what we can do to make it more attractive, put things in between the screens and so on.
That's great. That's excellent. Right, let's see how you're getting on. Charles, how are you doing?
I'm quite pleased, actually. The Spectrum doesn't have any special characters that are very large, and so we've had to actually do a lot of fancy peeks and pokes just to get the double height letters.
Perhaps I should mention here that there's a difference in price between these machines. They're not all the same price, so they all have different facilities. This looks to be in black and white at the moment. Will you colour it up later?
Well, colour's quite easy to do on the Spectrum, and so we can do that very quickly at the end with the tributes. But it's just getting the large letters, on the screen. It's quite difficult on the Spectrum, but we know it can be done, so we've done it.
I noticed from looking at the papers on your desk, nobody's actually written a flowchart. Have you got firm opinions on it?
I've never seen anybody actually who writes good programs actually use flowcharts. In fact, I don't think I've seen anybody who writes programs use flowcharts. One just squiggles away and makes something out of the squiggles, I think.
You usually end up with a flowchart more difficult to actually understand than the program you've written.
I quite agree.
Well, our programmers have just over an hour to complete their masterpieces. We'll see them again later when, with a bit of luck, they'll have finished. But real problems require first-class software, and that takes a lot of time to write, not just a couple of hours, and even small errors could have disastrous results in situations that really matter.
Although its headquarters is this modern office block, the University of Oxford Local Examination Board is the oldest setter and marker of examinations in the country. Each year, the completed marked exam papers from over 180,000 hopeful candidates covering 165 different syllabuses from O-level English to A-level Dutch end up here. And to sort and check all those papers each year, the board employs 400 local students. Until 1981, the procedures for handling this kind of information were virtually unchanged from the 19th century. It was a complicated paper-based system involving endless copying, correlating and collating. Then 2 years ago, at a cost of £400,000, the board installed a mainframe computer. It handles all the administration. It's used for editing, storing and printing some of each year's question papers. It analyses each year's results and even sends each candidate a personalised timetable. The benefits are many, but the board still relies heavily on paper for collecting the data in the first place. Paul Humphreys is one of the board's computer managers.
The computer did help enormously once we'd got the data in there, because getting information out in the way that we wanted it was very easy. Simply write programs to do that, and on the line printer out comes the information. One of the side effects was that we designed a new style of entry form that schools filled in and sent into the office, and we collect them here. The ones you can see on the table here represent nearly all of the entries for this summer's examination. You can see there's an enormous amount of paper still left in the system, although we've got a mainframe computer.
At the Matthew Arnold School in Oxford, teacher Colin Relton is responsible for the school's examination entries. It means long hours after school has finished, transferring lists of names and subjects from his files to the entry forms. Until now, this information had to then be copied and typed by someone else into the board's computer. But recently, the schools have also acquired computers. With the government putting up half the money for their purchase, by 1982, virtually every secondary school in the country owned at least one micro. And that's when the exam board introduced a new way of collecting the entry information. The board posts 2 floppy disks to the school with special written software that will enable the teacher to set up a database of entries using one of the school micros. One disc will be posted back to the board, the other stays at the school. The subjects are entered as numbers, as they were on the handwritten forms. But now the program automatically displays the subject name as a check. When the entry is complete, it can be saved onto the disc and the details of the next candidate entered. The school can use their copy of the disc to print lists for subject teachers, for example, and they save 25 pence per candidate in entry fees, because the information is already in magnetic form, and back at the board, the saving in data processing costs is passed on.
By taking the floppy disk that was sent from schools, we can insert it into the disk drive of the micro, run a program that was pre-prepared to say, take the data from that disk, pass it down the line into the heart of the mainframe. As far as the mainframe's concerned, it doesn't know where the data's coming from. It's just a series of electrical disturbances on the line. The fact it's being driven by the intelligent micro as opposed to somebody sitting there manually keying it in at a dumb terminal.
I think it's a very good system. I can see no real disadvantages to it at all. No school has to use the system. If they like to go on using the manual method, they can do.
Do you think
but,
it's a coincidence
this, I see,
that
has great advantages.
probably about 80% of computer users back then had glasses?
Help eliminate a lot of the paperwork and a lot of organising lists.
Well, they're currently sending their data on disks through the post, but it would be equally possible to connect their micros into the telephone network and send it direct to the mainframe computer, of course, if they've got the right kit and the right sort of software. What's the code, John?
Well, Mac, to connect the telephone line to the computer, you have to use one of two things, either an acoustic coupler or a modem.
Acoustic
It's quite a nice acoustic coupler. Enables you just to take the telephone handset and plug it in like that. And in that way, to get a very simple connection between the telephone and the micro.
The nice part about it is, of course, it can be with a little portable micro like this. The whole thing can be portable. It's battery-driven. And I was using one of these in New York when I was over there with the BBC, so I could go to a local phone, put in 10 cents, dial a local number. It would get me through a satellite into the UK, into British Telecom Gold. And I'd already typed into the micro some messages I wanted to send. I'd shoot them through, and at any time of the day or night I could do it. And then, of course, I could read the replies as they came through. It's a nice little system.
Yeah, it's very useful. Right, let's try going in now, dialing the telephone, using this modem here and getting straight in. So we dial 9 for an outside line, and then 837-2844, and we'll see if that will ring out. I have a nasty feeling, Mac, that we're going to have a few problems this morning, partially because I think we're going to have an awful lot of lines busy, and I don't know whether we'll get through on this number. It's ringing. We'll see. And it's still ringing, and if 100 other people are also trying to ring in, we may not get in on this line. But if not, we'll go around a different way. Right, not going to get in that way, so I'm going to have to go in, I'm afraid, through packet switch system. Sorry about that.
Of course you do.
907536131.
Now, would you explain what a packet switch system is and what
Well, all right, it's just another route going through another network, and unfortunately it's a little more difficult to go in this way, and we'd hoped we'd be able to get in the direct way. But it's another route through a national network into this London computer. I just hope fewer people are going that way. Right, that's whistling. And let's now wake up the packet switch exchange, please. And come on, reply to me. Ah, thank God for that. Right, and now it wants to know who I am. So this is the code to get in here. TL, typed that wrong, gold, M. And it didn't take because I made a typing mistake. And I do hope the cameras aren't on the keyboard too well there. Right, and it now wants to know the address of the computer that we want to get through. Well, I'll try and get to the one we were getting to. 219.201.004.
That was a secret little piece of code you put in there. That,
right. Now, we are now at last through to this London computer, and that was where I was trying to get through by direct dialing. Right. British Telecom Gold, we're through. We now have to type in our identification, which we said our ID was OWL001. And the machine asks what our password is.
This is the bollocks you had to go through to get on a very, very basic internet.
And Telecom Gold, Automated Office Services, we're through. Mail call.
Computer security error.
I think
Illegal
we have
access.
some hackers. I think you've tempted some hackers rather too well. Illegal access. I hope your television program runs as smoothly as my program worked out your passwords. Nothing is secure.
Hacker's song. Put
Fine.
another password in, bomb it out and try again. Try to get past logging in. We're hacking. That's brilliant. Try his first wife's maiden name. This is more than just a game. It's real fun, but just the same. It's hacking, yes.
Yeah, well, oh no, ACN 019, hi there, Owlet from Oz and Yug. Now look, Oz and Yug, just go away, will you? We want to do a demonstration here. Go away. Right, now, if they've left this system anything like intact, we should be able to do a mail scan and find out who's been sending us letters. I gather they've been coming in rather fast. Let's just stop it there.
Now, that is a list of all the letters.
All the letters, right. From Murchie, subject Micro Live, Microcomputer Course. One from Owl, and they're all Hackers of the World Unite. Yes, they've been there as well. Let's just keep going down. Deaf Community, David Naylor. Right, let's have a look at letter number 6 and letter number 7. You can see letter number 6, we read it across. It says, from D. Naylor, VCM, that's Visicom, posted on Sunday the 2nd of October at 11:19, posted on System 81, that's in London, subject deaf communication. So I'll just stop the system and we'll have a look at those letters there. That was letter 5 and letter 6. Let's read letter 5 and letter 6. Right, here's the one, letter 5. Further to my inquiry, deaf communication, a verbal reply on the programme will be welcome. Oh, as I have hearing family with me while watching the programme. Regards, Doreen. OK, well, let's send him a reply. Type in reply.
I hope it's not a him with a name like Doreen.
You're quite right. Well done.
There's enough men in computers, but there are some women who like to actually learn about
we'll
computers.
reply politely then. And notice that when you want to send a reply, you don't have to sort of write the envelope out, you know, Andrew Towers, 56 Bedford Road or whatever. You can just say reply, and it knows where to send the reply to. Right, text. Hi, Doreen. How are you today? I hope you are well. How's that?
Now, we've got an expressis letter.
Express letter. Well, express letters can go away. Right. Somebody else has sent us a letter, express, so it comes up on the screen whether we want it or not. My spelling's not too wild. I'm just going to ask the system to check my spelling. No more expresses, please, for the moment, lads and lasses. Right, Dialcom spelling error detection and correction. It's got a 26,000-word dictionary, and it takes all the words in my letter and compares it with the dictionary. Yes, I spelt it T-O-O-D-A-Y, and of course, computer, you're so right, I meant today. And what was my other mistake? Doreen's an unknown word. All right, well, we can add it to the dictionary, and there it's added to the dictionary, and spells complete. Right, sign John.S. .S sends it, and it's sent there. Action required. We can now file it or do anything we like with it.
Of course, we must emphasise that communications between deaf people is absolutely ideal using this type of system. They can read them out at their own leisure and send off messages and communicate with each other.
Indeed, and also blind groups are working with the system. It's quite incredible, but you can get a Braille output device.
Could we look at another letter?
Yes, another one coming up. This.
Just pause that for a second. If you've just joined this stream, this is a Watch with Mamemeister. It's where we just pick some random sort of video game, computer related vintage bit of TV program and watch it. I love these things, and I think most of the folk in this enjoy them as well. Real early stuff. I mean, this is like from 1983, so like I said, you can go and watch these without coming to my channel, but you're not going to get the banter, whatever. So anyway, yeah, thanks very much for everyone that's tuned in tonight. We shall continue. There's 44 minutes left on this.
This is actually from the same chat. I was very disappointed that this programme is not subtitled. As you're aware, the electronic mailbox system with chat facilities are ideal for the deaf communication. I think there's much potential here. I'm profoundly deaf in particular. OK, I happen to have picked 2 out.
Well, one of the reasons we can't subtitle, of course, is because it's live, and we can only subtitle when it's recorded.
Right. Well, we survived that just. I'm grateful for the hackers to have let us at least loose on that bit.
Let's have a look at the express letter, shall we?
What, the express letter?
Let's live dangerously.
Oh, my goodness, you do. Mail, scan, unread, express letters.
And nobody's read this, so it hasn't been censored, and we might get the most extraordinary thing here. But
right, these are all...
If you're going to do something live, you've got to live dangerously.
These are all the express letters that have come in. There are one or two of them. Oz has been at it again. Ronson, how about a chat? Well, sorry, not today. Chat's off this morning, anyway. It'll be back on shortly. Match Live. Microcomputer course. Should we have a look at number 4?
Yes.
One of the express ones? OK. Read number 4. Yes, all right. Who's that? Central Sales. No, Central Sales of ICL. You're off. Right. No plugs today. Right. Hello, my name is James. I'm 8 years old. I'd like to know when the next computer course will be shown on TV. Well, that was a good one. That was true.
Well, that was live and breathe a sigh of relief.
You know the answer to that? Tell us later.
I don't know what sort of computer course. No, I don't honestly know the answer to that.
Well, we've got some others coming up, which I think we'll talk about anon.
But this last series is going to be repeated sometime later on this year. But it's not a new one.
All right.
There will be a couple of new series, one on robotics next year, one on the automated office.
OK, Mac, well, let's leave that there.
Thank you very much, John. Well, all this is completely legal. We're actually paying for our time on the machine. We're paying for our line time and so on. But a lot of interest being expressed in kids using their home micros, getting into the telephone network, and then breaking into a large mainframe computer and causing absolute chaos, the sort of thing we saw in that film, War Games. Well, happily, it's not quite as easy as that, but I did love the bit in Superman 3 where he got on and he said, transfer all the money into my account. If it was easy as that, we'd all be rich. There are some issues here, though, because people have got into computers. They've used them to transfer money. They've used them to create awful messes. There are several solutions. One is to stop them completely, but that's extremely difficult and inconvenient for the people who are actually using the computers themselves. Like in your house, if you have 53 bolts and locks on the door, you just get bored of it. Obviously, if you leave the door open, as they had on that example there, people are going to get in. The other way is to know when they've actually broken in. Like in your house, you have your windows, you lock the doors, and if they've broken the window, you know somebody's been in there, so you can find out what they've been up to and perhaps trace who's done it. And finally, of course, you can separate the text from the data, so that 46 is a secret number. It happens to be, well, you don't know what it is, it's not secret, it doesn't mean anything, but when it's ICI's next quarter's profits of 46 million, it suddenly becomes very confidential, so you can separate them. Would anybody like to chat about any personal experience on problems with computer security? John Vince.
We had an interesting experience, Mac, a few years back on our mainframe computer. We just purchased it, £700,000 worth of equipment, and all was working very well until we allowed school children onto the system. And within a few weeks, some 14-year-old lad broke into the system and discovered where all the passwords were kept, and he thought it would be rather intriguing if he printed these out on every printer within the poly. It caused all sorts of problems. We had to power down the machine and write to everyone and assign them new passwords, but it was just a challenge to the boy, really.
It sounds like a very low security type of system. Some systems are very low security, but some are much higher than that. Has anybody experienced? There are rumours that people have actually broken into some quite secure computers, but they're usually employees. Malcolm, have you written any stories about this?
Well, there's quite a large amount of computer crime that goes on. No one actually knows how much, because most of the time it's not reported, even when it's found, because companies don't actually reveal how insecure their systems are. And when you think of it, for example, banks, money, or anyone who's got money on a bank account, that money exists primarily as pulses whirring around the computer. And there have been many discovered and publicized cases of crimes where people just transfer money that doesn't actually exist in real form, but get the password, say money should be transferred from one bank to another. And as it only exists as those electronic pulses, that happens. There's also one of the greatest aids to the computer criminal in this way are poorly documented systems, poorly developed, because an employee, say an accountant or a clerk working in the accounts department, if the computer makes a lot of mistakes, like issues 2 checks by mistake, suddenly it twigs, well, if it's issued 2 checks and no one's noticed, perhaps we could do it again. And I think it's an important case for any business that is involved in any kind of computer system to be very careful and about the documentation and the controls, and also the understandings of the employees about how the system works.
Because there are all sorts of stories about hidden bombs in computers, in the sense that as long as your name's on the payroll, everything works perfectly. But if your name disappears off the payroll, it explodes and overwrites all the data files and screws up all the controls and all the system and so on. And how true that is, I'm a bit sceptical about. It has to be a very naive system. Yes?
Yes, the question then about documentation, and it brings me back to the previous question about flow charting and whether it's necessary to flow chart a system. I'm actually an accountant, and that's why I've come in here, but I often get involved with looking at systems and testing them particularly. And it seems to me, unless there's a flow chart or something like a flow chart where you can check the logic of the system, then it's impossible to make sure that it can't be broken into.
Well, I think there is a difference between writing flowcharts for code, as we're doing over there, and writing them for business systems, the overall flowchart. And I think those are very important. I'm sure Colin House would agree with that they are quite important to understand the overall total system. Right, well, we've got to come out of there. Thank you very much, everybody. One of the questions, one of the letters we've got from various people concerned our buggy, and it says, can the BBC control robots? And what uses could this have? Well, it does say that, can the BBC control robots? And, of course, as we all know, the BBC do have a lot of robots, or people that behave like robots from time to time. I believe it means, can the BBC micro-control robots, and what use they would have? Well, we did actually use the BBC Micro to control our little buggy, and
Jesus,
it
that's
found its way out of a
what
maze
the definition of a robot was
prompting,
back in
and it also
1983.
managed to raise a flag, and the genius
It's got a
of
coffee
the
cup on it, look
BBC
at it.
engineers have at last found a major use for it, and here it is, delivering my coffee. My goodness,
Oh, it
it
is.
stairs. Well, if you are interested in the use of computers in control, we're going to have a new series and next year called Computers in Control, and it's about robots. Well, we had several letters after the last series asking about the way we used the micro for subtitling, and here's one of them. It said in Radio Times we were going to be shown on one programme about how titles are superimposed on the screen. It said the ones we see were done on the BBC computer. You did not show this. Can something be done to explain these things?
Yeah, naked
I fully
backtrack.
realise you also use the same expensive gear. Well, there is a way to adapt the micro for this purpose, but first of all, John Coll has been upstairs to the control room to have a look at the system used by the BBC.
Right, Mac, well, now we're in the gallery of Studio 4 where the pictures are mixed before transmission. Now, to generate subtitles, you need two pictures. One's the background and the other's the caption. And if you just mix the two together in the ordinary way, you get this effect, which is all right, but as you see, you can actually see through the subtitle onto the background. Now, a much better way of doing it is to generate a black box on the background, like this, and then to drop the caption into that black box. But there is a problem. The television pictures are generated a line at a time, starting at the top, across that line, and then down on the next line. And if you want to mix two pictures together, you have to make sure that the two pictures are synchronous. They actually start at the top of the screen together at the same time. If you don't have them synchronous, you get this effect. Well, generating the black box is quite easy. That's done by the ordinary studio mixing equipment. But making the two pictures synchronous is rather more difficult. And we use a BBC Micro for the captions here, and there's a special board in the BBC Micro to make it synchronous with all the other pictures in the gallery here.
Well, all that equipment costs a lot of money, but now, thanks to the ingenuity of the BBC engineers, they're getting a lot of credit at the moment, you can do subtitling at home using one of these amazing boxes with all these plugs and sockets in it. More information will be available if you write to the address that will be given at the end of the programme. Well, to demonstrate how it works, we need a video, and we asked our next guest, John Vince, who is the head of computer graphics at Middlesex Polytechnic, to do one for us. We'll be talking to John in a few minutes about graphics. Thank you, John. It's a little portable video recorder.
Yes.
Now, if I can find the plug.
He's looking rather dapper.
Ah, here we are. Wonderful. Things.
Yes.
Plug it in there, and then I hit play. It's coming up to speed. And with a bit of luck, we'll see the graphic. There it is. That's the video you've just taken. Now, I can we've stored the program in here, And there it cuts a hole in the film and puts them recorded during Micro Live, 2nd of October 1983. Switch it off, put another one up. Ian McNaught Davis, that was subliminal.
An old video, well, not video game toaster, aye, toaster it was.
You buy a
the
used
Amiga,
computer from this
wasn't
man?
it?
That's very rude and cheeky. I didn't have that. I should have done that as a subliminal one. Well, John, what are you doing in computer graphics at Middlesex Poly?
Well, a variety of things.
I thought he was
we
an
have to
accountant.
keep a tremendous range of equipment for our 7,000 odd students. Everything from, I think, about 200 different micros, a mini computer for computer-aided design and computer graphic work, and a very large mainframe for general purpose work.
You've brought some stuff along to show us now, the sort of programs you're
Yes,
doing.
I thought I'd bring along one of our latest acquisitions. It's called a VIP machine. It's a micro.
You notice there's absolutely
quite a
no
large
women
micro,
involved in the making of
400K
this.
of memory and twin processors, and it's dedicated to supporting computer graphics. And I have got 4 little demonstration pieces if you'd like to see them. The first one shows off how fast it can fill in, say, a three-dimensional scene, the area infill, and also brings out the very high resolution. It's 512 lines by 512 pixels, so we've got a 250,000 pixels on the screen and 16 colours out of 4,000. It's quite a fast processor, so it can manipulate 3D objects in real time.
And that's taking out the hidden lines from that
It's
cube,
hiding the
yes.
lines as well. I'll stop that. And this third sequence shows this three-dimensional dodecahedron, and it's shaded, and it's exploding it as fast as it can. I mean, even this machine cannot explode it in real time. It's only a micro. And the last sequence
That's mental.
is just our friendly owl.
Now, you've actually, some of your work you've done for Superman 3.
Yes, we were approached by a production company in London, I think it was late last year, who said, would we do a sequence of showing Superman spinning in space? One of the problems we had there was to get the model of Superman inside the computer. And one way I approached it was to have this excellent model built. It's made out of plaster, and to be able to get the coordinates of the surface into the computer, it was first sliced.
Could you lift it up a little
Yes,
bit,
I
John?
can take out half
No,
of it.
if you lift the whole thing
If I
up a
lift
little
up the
bit,
whole
that'd be
model
good.
there, you can see the model will come out of the base, but we had to get every surface detail into the machine, and to do that, we cut the model into slices, and each slice was digitized on a digitizer and fed into the computer. A second model was prepared, and this was cut vertically, and the two digitized files were superimposed on one another, and then the same program that was rotating the cube you've just seen was basically used for rotating Superman.
That's terrific. Well, let's have a look at that clip from the film right now.
Oh, bollocks.
Now it's time for our next phone-in. It's on graphics or sound, or for that matter, any other subject. I have Kulvinder Singh on line 1. Hello, Mr. Singh.
Hello.
What's your question?
So, the problem I have is that the first thing is I've got a VIC-20 computer.
That's a very serious problem.
And the problem is that I'd like the graphics, in other words, letters going from top to bottom,
What
and
a
also from
snobby
bottom to
bastard
top,
you are.
and left to right and right to left. In other words, like Coronation Street. I'd like letters or a cast flowing from top to bottom or from bottom to top. Is that possible on the VIC-20?
We have someone there who'd like to answer that
Yeah,
in the audience.
That is quite possible to get letters scrolling. You can scroll them from the bottom of the screen using just a plain scroll routine.
It's
that's
Tony
built in.
Crowder.
From scrolling from the top, you need to use the insert and delete command, which is one of the features of the VIC. You can also scroll the text from left to right, but I don't know about from right to left.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Singh. I think what we could do is just drop you a note and give you more details on that particular one.
I think it's a
another
bad line.
caller. We're trying to get through as many calls as we can. We have another caller on line 4,
we've
Mrs.
lost
Frances
Mr.
Williams.
Singh.
Good morning. Where are you phoning from?
From Luton.
What's your question?
I enjoyed Dave Ellis's Bach very much, but can you tell us more about how computers can be used in music education And are there any organisations to help teachers?
Richard, would you like to take that?
Well, we are interested in music education at the moment, and we have groups of teachers around the country, one based in Middlesbrough, one near Southampton, and one in Plymouth, working on the development of programmes to help teachers use the micro to teach music. Now, they're looking at things like chord and harmony and scales and so on, a fairly traditional basic syllabus that teachers normally use to do that. There is in some of the magazines recently an address to write to, but the man's name I would think you ought to write to is probably Joe Telford, who comes from Cleveland, and that will give you in contact with the sort of development they're doing. But,
Lorraine Boyce, I think you have a comment there.
Yes, on the general point of help for teachers, there is quite a lot of help available, but teachers don't always know where to get it.
What a spec on the background.
Richard Fothergill's microelectronics education programme obviously is doing a sterling job, but there are a lot of other organisations, micros and primary education, micro users in secondary education, that's MAPE and Muse. Perhaps people could write in and we could let them have a list of addresses.
I might perhaps just mention here that apart from the MEP, which is English, there is the Scottish SMDP also, which handles the area for teachers in Scotland as well. Thank you. We have another caller on line 3, Monica Greeno. Hello, Monica. Where are you calling from?
East Ham.
Oh, East Ham. That's...
The common place, you know.
Oh, no, it's wonderful down there.
Oh, thank you.
What's your question?
Well, mine's a sort of audio and visual problem. My eyesight isn't tremendously hot, and I've just started to write programs on my Spectrum, Sinclair Spectrum.
Well, you'll not like that.
I can't find anything in any book which would tell me how to make bleeping noises when I hit a key, so that I don't have to keep looking at the screen after I've typed one letter to see that it's come out.
Ah, that's a good one. Henry, budget.
There is a command within the Spectrum that allows it to make a very faint click, but unfortunately the audio output from the Spectrum is very low, so you'd hardly be able to hear it. There is a modulator adapter that you can build into the Spectrum very easily. It just takes 3 wires to connect, that puts the sound from the Spectrum through your own television set, so you get a very loud sound whenever you hit any key on the Spectrum's keyboard. It's not that difficult to do.
Excellent, right, that sounds like an answer. We have a caller on line 2, Samantha Stevens. Hello, Samantha, good morning.
Hello?
Where are you phoning from, Samantha?
Sanstead in Croydon.
Oh, she's
You
going to
sound
ask
very
a
young. How
gaming-related
old are you?
question. Evening, Doug.
10. What's your question?
Well, I have a VIC-20 Commodore, and my dad wrote a program called Breakout, where there's a ball and you had to hit bricks out of a wall. Everything worked except the ball didn't move very fast. Could you tell me why?
Because it's basic.
This is about how to get a program to work faster. Ian Trackman.
Yes, well, there are 2 answers to this. The first one is to change languages. BASIC, which presumably is the language in which your father has written this program, is not a very fast language because it's what we call interpreted. That means each command in the program is taken one at a time, and then it's put through the computer. So one answer is to change to a faster language. The other answer may just be that the way in which the program is written, it's possible to increase the speed of the program.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you for calling. We have another caller on line 1, Reginald McDermott. Good morning, Reginald.
Good morning, Mr. McNaught. I wasn't satisfied with the sound of my BBC computer, and I put a lead into my Toshiba Music Centre, and I seem to get a flutter, you know, like a sound on vision flutter, caused by presumably the amplification. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong. Can you explain why?
Who could take that? David?
Yeah, I'll try that. I'm not quite sure why you're getting the flutter. Maybe you're taking the output from the wrong part of it, the wrong part of the printed circuit board. The way you want to go to is 2 pads on the extreme left of the printed circuit board marked PL16. And that's what we actually use on the show. And it really does give a very clean sound and go straight into your amplifier. So try that, I suggest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have another caller on line 1, Reginald McDermott. No, that was Reginald McDermott. The whole system's come to a standstill. And my line's gone dead. Well, we haven't got any more calls, it seems. I'm being cut off. We did have some letters, though, with lots and lots of questions here. The one I particularly liked was, can you program a computer to be artificially intelligent? I always thought artificial intelligence was the opposite of real stupidity.
Never catch on.
But
AI.
what is artificial intelligence, Ian? I'm sure that's implicit.
Oh, yes, that is the real difficult question. The answer to it is really that every time that computer people make the computer do something that appears clever, they redefine the meaning of artificial intelligence to cover that, to make sure that that extends beyond humans. Let me just show you, though, one idea here. One test may be, can the computer reason? And I've got a program here which we might be able to demonstrate that. And if I type something into the computer like a cow is a ruminant, if I can spell, and a ruminant is not wild. Now, we would say if we were intelligent beings, we could draw a conclusion from that and say a cow is not wild, so we'll ask the computer to describe a cow, and it does come up with the answer, a cow is not wild. Well, I don't know really what the answer to the question is, but I can put a question back, is that computer intelligent?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a tip. It's not all that intelligent. Artificial intelligence is a long and complex subject, and there's an awful lot of hype going around about what it is and what it isn't, and what it can and what it can't do. But it does hold out a lot of promises. In a few minutes, we're going to be announcing details of the BBC software competition for schools, and I'll be talking to the Minister for Information Technology, Kenneth Baker. Well, successive governments have recognised the important role that microtechnology will play in the future of Britain. Many people are concerned that the new technologies will destroy their jobs. But new jobs are being created, and they would need a knowledge of computer technique.
Just for info, folks, there is 22 minutes left of this.
We've been to a place not a stone's throw from here, where on the surface there's a ripple of optimism. It's the country's first information technology centre, and is housed in an old vicarage in Notting Hill.
Back in 1978, the Urban Studies Centre did research into this local area of West London, and it was clear that this local economy was both contracting and transforming under the feet of young people. There were two effects of this. One was that less jobs were available, and the second obvious thing was that the jobs that were available had skill requirements which the young people didn't have. Now, we looked at this as a local phenomenon, but we also saw it in the context of what was happening in Europe and the developed world, and it was made particularly difficult by the penetration of information technology. We decided to set up a local response to this analysis, and this, of course, is the Nottingdale Technology Centre, which is next door from this building. There are three main areas of training. One, obviously, is electronics. The second area is what I would call using computers, which is very different from computer studies as understood in schools traditionally. The third area would be electronic communication, Prestel style, networking, eco-nets, and of course word processing as a function within that.
What about...
We basically here have no academic pre-requirements, so the catchment that we have is very broad indeed. Most of them, to begin with, had no academic qualifications worthy of the name. Youngsters have come from a background as trivial as being Space Invader freaks, spending their truancy hours down in the West End arcades. We also have youngsters who have self-taught themselves programming. They've probably nicked ZX81, some small micro out of W.H. Smith's, which was one particular case I have in mind, and have taught themselves almost in a play fashion to program on the steps of their flats. Or we have youngsters who are deeply into music, and they've self-taught themselves electronics, which is something many adults and teachers will recognise in kids. They've built amplifiers and even synthesizers, and yet they've never done CSE physics or anything of that kind. So there are a very wide range of backgrounds indeed, but they do have a sense this is where it's at in one sense, and they're right.
I think this place is a really nice place to come to, because if you do something like computer servicing, just learning it, I like to learn it because it's so technical and it's really good.
It has offered me a lot of experience because it's got a lot of facilities that you can learn. Like in electronics, it's got ample amount of tools and things that you could master. And same for computing. And from there, now I've left, I'm now working upstairs, self-employed, with an ex-member of staff, servicing computers. So we're just starting and hoping for the best.
I mean, one thing which is interesting is that on the whole they've got jobs in the small business sector, however defined. And I think that will be true across Britain, because it's clear that information technology penetrates every single occupational grouping
maybe into computers,
that
maybe
economists can
people
devise. Youngsters have got jobs, obviously, in the whole maintenance sectors of this information technology. That doesn't mean just maintenance of hardware, but it also means maintenance of software. They've got jobs as salespersons. They've got jobs setting up systems of data for groups like the Community Relations Council and people like this. They have jobs being Prestel operators. We have a couple of youngsters digitising maps for a cartographic company. We have a young lady working in the Institute of Mining and Metallurgy as a word processor operator. We have people doing jobs which demand myriad skills. Above our very head here, in fact, there is a local microprocessor engineer working with some of our young ex-trainees, now employees, in a company called Digitalent, which has been floated out in a very unconventional fashion between us, the London Borough of Hammersmith, and private money from the businessman himself. They are intending to make and market polyphonic synthesizers for the music market, and
Sounds
as
like he was
they reach
playing
certain
there
levels of
for
throughput,
clubs, yeah.
so they will take on more young ex-trainees. Not only that, Nottingdale will begin to make its share of the profit of the sale of the product. So it has a double function to support more research and development for more products for more companies, and also to create local employment. That's duplicated now 5 times over. We have 5 small companies popping out of Nottingdale as a kind of mother company.
Well, Mr. Baker, will there be other places like that opening up throughout Britain?
Yes, there already are 100, and we're going up to 150. And I think you're opening one at Inverness next week, aren't you, mate?
I am indeed,
right.
Yes, that's true.
And they are by far the most successful training centres in the country for any skills. The placement rate for jobs is very high. In Toxteth, for example, the placement rate of trainees is 70%. And what is so good about these centres really came out at the beginning of your programme when you warned against high priests and jargon. And these centres train people who've left school probably with 1 O-level, a couple of CSEs. They're not double furs, they're not mathematical wranglers, they're not high priests, but they're people who can cope with these technologies, and you saw them on that film, learning simple things like computer operation, electronic assembly, actually programming.
Will there be jobs for them when they come out of this training in the long term?
The placement rate for these centres is very successful indeed, but the whole of the microelectronics revolution is creating jobs. You know, once heard a bit on this programme about the BBC Micro, but in 1980 there were, 40 people employed by Acorn. Well, now there are about 250. And I've seen around the studio some of the VDUs that Richard Fothergill and others have been using. These are Microvitec. Now, that's a company in Bradford that didn't really exist in 1978-79. It employs over 200 people now. So there are jobs actually in the microelectronics industry itself, but as Chris Webb was saying on that film, whatever you're in, whether you're in a garage business or engineering business, you have to be able to cope and use microelectronics and computing.
I can see the short-term benefits of putting micros in schools. What's the long-term strategic thinking?
Well, I would like every youngster who leaves school at 15 or 16 to have actually had hands-on keyboard experience so that they're not shut out from what's going to affect their lives very profoundly. Because it's going to affect them in their home, in their jobs. So that's the strategic objective, to make them computer literate, if you like, to use a fancy phrase.
There have been, of course, quite a lot of lower-level jobs. For example, I guess 3 or 4 years ago, there were no shops actually selling micros.
Yes.
That's a whole new area of retailing.
Oh, yes. That's big. It's not only in the retail side, but it's also in the software side as well. I think that in the past, people have tended to concentrate upon the hardware. That's like the grand piano. But the grand piano is no good without the music. And it's the software that is the music. And we're very good at writing software. I want to see more software written. I'm very pleased the work that Richard Fothergill's doing up at Newcastle Polytechnic, and more software companies are springing up all the time in Britain.
He seems to be very good at writing software, but we don't seem to be awfully good at selling it. We're kind of Little England again, and we're not selling it abroad. Have you got any suggestions there?
Some of the educational software is now being sold abroad. I launched a scheme for one of the educational publishers, a whole series of projects which are now being translated from English into continental languages. You mustn't forget that in the last century, British textbooks spread over the world. Remember Durrell's algebra, Kennedy's Latin primer? Well, the textbooks today are those discs that they've been popping into their disk drives. And that's a very big business for us if we can get the act together. And it's quite difficult to get the act together. You've got to get educational publishers, you've got to get the people who are very good at writing the software, usually in the academic world. And don't forget the teachers, because some of the very good software is being written by teachers and sixth formers now.
Excellent. I do have one call for you. Would you prepare to take a telephone call?
Yes.
We have a call on line 1, Andrew Rhodes. Hello, Mr. Rhodes. Where are you calling from?
Northampton.
What's your question?
Yes, good morning, Minister.
Morning.
I was just wondering whether there could be any incentives for British companies to buy British technology to support the growth of the market over here.
For British companies?
Yes.
Well, the best incentive is that the British technological industry should produce the goods that, in fact, those companies want to buy. We have given direct incentives for schools, of course. That was the initiative we took 2 years ago to provide 50% funding to buy, in fact, British microcomputers, and we've extended that to add-on bits of equipment like VDUs and some of the equipment now for primary schools and secondary schools. So we have taken a definite policy to try to encourage the development of British companies making this equipment, and it's working well. In Britain, we now have the fastest growing electronic industry in Europe. And I think that that is as a result of a great deal of native talent in Britain, but also quite a bit of encouragement from the government.
Yes, I deal with a lot of companies during the course of my general work, and a lot of them which are related to American companies or associated to them have a policy to buy American equipment. I find it very frustrating that there isn't a sort of reciprocal arrangement, or at least if certainly the everything is equal as far as the equipment goes, that they would buy from a British company.
Well, I think when it was the big mainframes, we have one very good mainframe manufacturer, ICL, but now with the development of the micros and minis, there's a whole range. There are about 40 companies in Britain making micros, and they've all developed in the last 3 or 4 years. We've got a real breakthrough here, and now we're getting companies in the UK making disk drives and all the other peripherals, like that company Microvitec. So it's really happening here. It's exciting to be in this industry in Britain at this time.
Thank you very much for your call, Mr. Rhodes.
Before he asks another
also, of course, there are a
question.
lot of American companies who've set up manufacturing over here as well, and tremendous investment.
A large number of them, they've done it because they want to use British brainpower and British expertise, quite frankly.
Can we go on to this software competition, which sounds extremely exciting?
Well, this is an exciting competition, which I'm very pleased to announce today. The prizes are £32,500, and it's for schools, for secondary schools. And secondary schools are being asked to write some software about the school, or for use in the school, or for, it hasn't got to be educational necessarily, possibly the school's relationship with the local community, something like that. You've got to apply for an entry form in November. You've got to send in the software by the end of February next year. There'll be regional prizes as well. We're looking for something innovative, interesting, different, and the prizes can be spent on British equipment, or any sort of equipment, I hope British equipment, for the schools. So I hope youngsters who are watching this program will tell their teachers that they should apply. I hope that if any teachers are watching, as I'm sure they will apply. They should go to it, or if you like to use the computer phrase, go to.
Excellent. Well, I hope it's successful. There are 48 prizes, I gather, so it's not just 1 or 2, and the first prize is how much?
Is £5,000.
Fine. Well, if you want more details, you can get an entry form. You just write at the address. That'll be given to you at the end of the programme. Thank you very much, Minister. It's also been given in this week's Radio Time on page 83. Well, let's have a look at how our own software writers have been getting on. 2 hours
9 minutes
isn't
and
a
45
very long
seconds
time to
left.
write any sort of programme, so they're really, to some extent, throwing it together,
Here's
particularly
darling.
under these sort of conditions where if anything's going to go wrong, it will go wrong. The only thing that has gone wrong so far is the clock. Right, would you like to run your programme?
Right, well, it's running at the moment. It now,
She's quite
well,
foxy.
previously it was just displaying the thing. Now it also flashes the colours. We also have a few more fill-ins, as she calls them, so that between each one. This is one. It's going rather slowly, but keep going. And then it will cycle around to another one, and you can fast forward.
Need a ticket, we can fix it. Smudge Enterprises, I see. So
That's right. And you can cycle through the colours very fast if you need to go. which will then go on to the next fill-in and so on. So you can fast forward, or it'll just wait. If you just leave it all alone, it'll just go at its own speed.
Did you just code it up yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't write any sort of flowcharts in that? Oh, there's one or two little pieces of code you wrote down.
Yes, there are pieces of code written down, but no flowcharts.
Could we just list the program out and have a look at it?
Yes. Basically, at the end, there's all the subroutines there for the square.
I see. So you've got all of them basically in procedures.
Yeah,
I
right,
see.
yes.
How many lines of code is it approximately?
Well, it's 150 roughly. And there's the various data for the ads at the end.
Do you think it would work? I mean, do you think it would be usable?
Oh, yes. It does actually work. It's fairly reliable as far as we can tell so far.
What else would you have to do with it to make it really into a saleable program, do you think?
Perhaps put a few more things in, like we were thinking at one point of putting in arrows pointing into its centre as another eye-catching thing.
Could you write it again?
Yeah.
There we go, Alan's newsagent.
It just cycles round. There's about 4 or 5 ads. It just keeps cycling around. It's a 15-second wait.
Have you got on, man? Run.
Not too bad. Not too bad. We didn't do all the screens. We had lots of ideas.
You didn't like that one, it's
some graphics in to display a picture of what they were trying to sell or advertise, but really just not enough time to do that. So we've done several different sorts of text in different colours.
This is on the RML machine, isn't it? The 5
That's
to
right.
Z. I'm not really too familiar with that. Oh, that's nice.
So that's just sort of to catch people's attention, and then there's some letters with some shadow to make it stand out.
Two of it's a fair dream. Tiddler, that's our director. Is he selling his motorbike? Perhaps shoot after this programme.
And I think it's probably about the same length as...
About 150 lines of
something like that,
code.
yeah.
What would you do to improve it if you had more time?
Throw it away and start again.
One thing I'd certainly do is I'd write a lot more machine code in it for doing fast animated graphics and things. A motorcycle running across the screen, that sort of thing.
You need speed and colour to catch people's eye, really.
Yeah, of course, the newsagent himself would have to be able to write his own adverts in, wouldn't it? So it would have to be very easy to use. That would be quite... Usually the parts of inputting data into a big program is quite hard to get it right, to make sure you've got the correct data in.
Yeah.
The newsagent would have to have quite a big interface at the front, wouldn't it?
Yes, we were told not to bother doing
Oh,
that.
no, I know. I'm just talking about generally.
Yes,
that would be
indeed,
quite a
that would be
longish piece of program to make it into a complete exercise, so he could just simply type in on... Would you put it on a series of menus or something like that?
Something like that. You've got to take into account the fact that he's probably going to make a lot of mistakes, so you've got to program to take that into account. Whereas if you've got an experienced user, you can write a very much more simple program because you know what he's going to enter into the keyboard.
In doing it under the short time frame, did you put any crash proofing in?
No, none at all.
Did you do that?
Virtually none. I mean, there's no real crash proofing to put in because we're not allowing the user to do very much with it. It's just running the program.
We are going to make these programs available, by the way, to anybody who writes in for them and who might like to use them. Charles, how have you got on?
Well, not too bad. We got the double height characters working okay. And as you see, it's drawing rather slowly because we're actually doing all kinds of dirty machine code tricks, actually getting the character pattern from the ROM, and in BASIC taking it up bit by bit and putting it on the screen because there's nothing within the BASIC. In machine code, it'd be almost instantaneous, and so that's one improvement I'd make. Having done that and got everything nicely centered up, we went to try and put some colors into it, and we were hoping, and you see there's a slightly different behavior at the top, we were hoping for a sort of flashing highlight on the main title there, but it never came about. It didn't quite work, so we went back to an old version.
This is a Sinclair ZX Spectrum. That's by far the cheapest machine in this range.
It's a cheap machine, and in some respect it's very good. It has very large memory and that, but the BASIC, well, it just doesn't have large character within its BASIC, and so if you want large characters, you have to go outside the BASIC.
What would you have done to improve it if you'd had more time?
I think the sort of thing I'd go for is an animated character, sort of pulling the characters on by string or something like that. Something really fast.
And for cell rotating around, so that it's a moving display.
We did think of doing that, but it takes, as you see, it takes so long to actually draw it in BASIC that it would have been painful on the eye.
Right. What else would you do? Could we have a list of it?
Sure.
How many instructions was yours? It probably was pretty long, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, it's not that long.
No, it's not too bad. No, it's about the same as the other. Have you anything
And
else
little
you do if you
shit.
could spend more time on it to improve it?
Well, I think I'd throw it away and start again.
As everybody said.
Yes. I mean, that's what you do in practice when you're programming. You write something up and you look at it and you realize your mistakes and you start all over again. And that's the strength of BASIC, in that you can get things going very quickly. And we do that. It's always slow, but at least you get a rough idea what it's about. So even in machine code, I'd start this way.
Well, thanks a lot, and thank all of you for your bold and brave efforts, and everybody else who's been in the studio. Well, next year, as well as a new series on robots, we're also doing one on the electronic office, or the office of the future, or whatever it's called. We'll let you know when we find out. That's it. Have a good lunch. Goodbye.
And a fact sheet which gives more information about the BBC's computer literacy project and the entry forms for the BBC software competition for schools are both available by sending a self-addressed envelope 12 inches by 9 with a 21p stamp to Broadcasting Support Services, PO Box 7, London W3 6XJ. And don't forget to indicate which item it is that you require. And a reminder that the entry forms for the software competition are only available to schools. You can also find that address on page 83 of this week's Radio Times.
And there we have it, folks. Yes, basking in nostalgia. Yep, take us back to these days. Things are a lot simpler back then, that's for sure. Right, anyway, folks, listen, I'm going to get going. Yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Yeah, I'll hopefully be along on, later on this week with something anyway. Yep, have a nice, I was going to say have a nice weekend, have a nice Sunday night. I hope you have a decent week, and I shall see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.